Hello, hello. We are back. Back. We're gonna finish up this Alice from earlier today. We have this beautiful Christmas Alice that we started. So if you could, I just heard myself on my computer. If you could share the video, that would be amazing. And invite people would be great. Share in group. Why can I not make this public? Oh well. All right. I'm just inviting people. So if you could invite people, that would be fabulous as well. Invite friends to watch. Here we go. That's what I want. You can hear me clicking in the background. I'm sure that's just me inviting people to come watch the video with us. So if you have anybody you'd like to invite, that would be awesome too. Let's see who else we can invite. If there's anybody that would like to come watch us color along. On this Sunday afternoon, huh? Let's see. All right. Well, I guess I will get started. See if anybody shows up. Sorry, I'm just still inviting people. Seeing if anybody's around on this afternoon. See who else we have hanging out online. All right. I got somebody with me. Who's here with me? Andrew. Hello. Live video interrupted. Am I still live for you? Okay, perfect. Hi. Something. Perfect. You're my kind of people. We're good with that. That works. All right, so we're going to continue coloring our Alice now. And I am just, oops, my computer's doing all kinds of weird things. So we're going to continue coloring her and get her all ready for the holiday. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give her some black gloves. And I'm going back in with my 110, and these are just the markers that I had out from earlier. So I'm just going to continue using them because they're handy. And we're going to color in her gloves. She has little, I know she should have white gloves, but white is really hard. When you have, a bunch of hair that you're going to color around it, it's really hard to keep the white a very pristine white and still shade it. So I'm going to go with black gloves. And I am pretty much just outlining the entire hand. because I want to make sure that her gloves actually show up, especially after we color her hair. So I just want to, there we go. So I just want to make sure that her hands show up, and that's why I'm coloring them all black. All right, there's that. Then I'm gonna come in with my W7. I think it works better if I set it down here and probably right side up for you guys. Hey Faith, are you here? I'm doing dinner. Have to catch the replay. But can you do blonde hair? I can certainly try to do blonde hair. Is that what you would like me to do? Obviously, since you asked. Do you have particular colors you want me to use, like colors you already have? I'm sure you want me to use the 50s, 55, 53, 51, right? Since we were talking about blonde the other day. Oh, hello. My computer is obviously not keeping up here. Let's see. There we go. Have to watch the hello. All right. I had to refresh my computer screen, sorry, because it wasn't showing me the comments on my computer screen. I'm not really sure why. And I keep saying live video interrupted. I hope that you guys can hear me and see me. I'm not really 100% sure why it's saying that. Obviously, because the live video has been interrupted. All right, so we have her little black gloves done. Maybe if I close Safari and start over. Maybe that'll help. All right, so with blonde hair, let's go for the blonde hair. I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna look like in this section of my hex chart. Let me see if I can get this down here a little bit further. So I'm gonna look up in this section here of my hex chart and see if I can't find like a good blonde that I wanna use. I tend to use E55, which is right here, and E53 and E51. So we're gonna pull those ones out. Where is my E53? There it is. And then, excuse me, I like to actually use something a little bit darker than E55 in the shadow area. So I'm going to use something that still kind of has that sort of honey color to it. So I'm going to use like an E35. And let's see if we can't get that nice blonde going. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Andrew, for letting me know that. You have Y04, Y15, and Y17. 04, 15, and 17. Honey, those are like sunflower yellow. And those are not going to work very well for a blonde. They're yellow. E23 and E25. Those are more brown. The E23 and E25 are more of like a milk chocolate type color. So those are not very blonde either. I can go into a chocolate color if you'd rather me do, use that for her hair. But I would go brown. I would go 27, 25, 23. Because I need something that's darker for the shadow. And then you could even go into your like 21 as your highlight. Let's stick with these ones that I have out right now. So let's go with E35. Whoa. E35. And I'm going to put E35 in. Hey! Oh, Sandy's here. Hi, Sandy Smith. How are you? So I'm going to use this E35 for the shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and start just doing little lines that go with the grain of hair, or with the direction of her hair. And I want to try to use just the very, very, very tip of my marker, so I can sort of piece out the hair and give it lots of texture. So I'm just using the very tip of my marker in this shadow area and pulling that shadow from underneath this big fat cat. Okay, so I'm going first into what is called the cast shadow, where this cat is laying. He would cast a shadow upon her hair. And then you see that Annie has drawn a line here that this section of hair is in front of this section of hair. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of shade that in a little bit. And all the while I'm working with these little short lines that kind of mimic strands of hair. I just want to mimic that the strands of hair are flowing. And you notice I try to color in the same direction that the hair is flowing by the artist's drawn lines. Oh, you think you have those? Hey, Rochelle, how are you, girl? We're coloring up Alice. Well, we're finishing coloring up Alice. How about that? We're going to try to finish anyways before my back gives out on me again. Okay. Her ear would cast a shadow. And then you see this thicker artist drawn line here? That's showing me that this hair is tucked underneath that other piece. So I'm going to go ahead and shade that in. All right, so we're gonna start Boo to Fires and Smoke. Yeah, that's so true. You poor thing. Big boo to fires and smoke up there for you. And I'm gonna add some color on this to wherever her hair kind of arches away from our light source, which is over here. And I'm also going to shade in where that hair would shadow and where her neck would shadow. With blonde, it's very, very easy to make yourself go really, really dark on the blonde. So I always have a hard time with blonde, trying to get dimension in it so that it's not flat, but at the same time trying to not get it, too dark as well. So just FYI, sometimes blonde can get a little bit tricky on you if you tend to be heavy in the shadows. And I tend to be heavy in the shadows, so my hair doesn't come out being blonde, it comes out being more of a light brown. But hey, we try. And that's all we can do. Right? Again, there's no Copic police. They're not going to come get us. So I think we'll be all right. We'll probably survive it. And I'm just looking along these artist-drawn lines and trying to find the places where Annie has indicated that her hair, you know, one section of hair is behind another section of hair. Sorry if I'm going off the screen, guys. I concentrate so hard on the coloring that I forget that I'm like at the mercy of my phone screen. Okay, and I know that her hand is going to cast a shadow upon her hair. So I'm just going to shadow around her hand. And you notice I'm still using these little lines to kind of mimic the hair. There's a lot of different techniques for hair. A lot of people do it very differently, and a lot of people actually do it very similarly. So it's just, you're just gonna have to find what works for you and how you enjoy doing the hair, what, you know, what gets you the result that makes you happy, kind of thing. All right. Okay, so this piece of hair is coming from underneath that piece. So I'm going to shade this in. Copic police. It happens. It's a thing. Just kidding. Yeah, there's definitely no Copic police. Unless, Andrew, you're the Copic police. Do you happen to be the Copic police? That might be bad. If you hear little voices, it's because my son has a friend over. They're playing video games. So, you know, boys playing video games tend to get loud. And then all of this hair underneath the Cheshire Cat will obviously have shadow. And there we go. All right, so that's my first color. No Copics here, unfortunately. So you have to have Copics in order to be the Copic police. That's what we're finding out here. So now I'm going into E55, and I'm just going to elongate the strands that I already shadowed in. So I already laid down my shadows, and now I'm just going in and filling in the hair. With the same type of motion. Using those little, using the very tip of the nib to make those little hairs come out. And the great thing about doing blonde is if you decide that the blonde did not come out the way you wanted it to, you're kind of like pre-ready to get yourself into a brunette. So it's actually, if your blonde doesn't work out how you wanted, you're like, have already shaded yourself into a brunette. So it kind of makes it nice to cover if you decide that it's not what you like. All right. Just realize I'm at a weird angle, very odd angle for my wrist to be at. There we go. Oh, I missed a couple spots over here. All right, there's that. Thanks. Okay, so we're gonna go into E53 and just trying to, again, elongate those into our highlight area. I love seeing hair like develop. It takes a minute. The first couple of markers that you go through, you're like, man, is this gonna work out? I'm not so sure this is gonna work out. And then as long as you keep with it and keep going, it usually all works out. I won't say every time, but it usually all works out. All right, and come down here and fix this part. Okay, there's that. Now we're gonna go into the E51. And who has joined me? Gloria, hello. And who else do we have here? Gloria and Rosita? Did I say that right? Rosita? Something along those lines? Sorry for butchering your name completely. My apologies. We're working on coloring hair. Making little Miss Alice here a blonde. She's kind of a brassy blonde. All right. So I have Alice here all blonde for us and ready to go. Now, usually what I do is, because when I've gone through this, it's kind of ended up washing out her hair just a little bit, is I go back in, oops, sorry if I put my arm in the way. I go back in with my darkest marker. So I have my E35. And with my E35, I just go back in and I do just kind of a second layer on the hair. And I try to sort of piece it out just a tiny bit more without overly blending it. So my point is I'm trying to give it just a little bit more texture. This coat or this layer or whatever you want to call it is usually takes about half to third the time because I'm not so worried about thinking about where I'm putting the shadows. I'm just able to kind of go back in and go over them, trace over them some. So it's not quite so much thought that goes into this layer, but it is, I like to go through it a second time just so that I can get a little bit more texture out of what I'm doing. Some people go through this a second time, some people do not. It's totally just personal preference. And again, I do like to rotate my paper quite a bit. But this just brings a whole lot more dimension, I think, into the hair. And definitely pieces it out more and gives you that, I don't know, just that definition and more of that 3D effect that I think we all tend to look for when we color these images. And so I just try to hold my marker fairly straight up. So I'm using just barely the very, very tip of that brush nib. And it's going to give us so much more dimension to go through this a second time. It's really, really worth it. Well, hi again, Katya. How are you? Looks fabulous. Her hair's gorgeous. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I do struggle with blonde quite a bit. It's not my strong suit. I try. Blonde has always been hard for me. I don't know, for some reason it never looks right to me. When I color it, everybody says I color it fine, but I don't know, just we are all our own worst critics. And so as I color blonde, I always think, man, it doesn't have enough depth to it, or it doesn't read properly as blonde, or, you know, whatever. You struggle with hair in general? Yeah. It can be really difficult to pull off, and I know quite a few people like just blend hair so that it's slightly easier, and that's totally fine too. Being able to just blend the hair works nice because Annie has all of these lines drawn in for us, and so it already has so much texture that if you're not super strong on coloring hair, you can just blend it, and you're totally fine to do that. Okay, so since this is the second coat, I'm just going to go in with my E53. I'm not going all the way over into, I'm not doing my whole blend. That's the word I'm looking for. Again, I'm just kind of piecing this out so that I can have a little more depth to it. So if you notice, I'm not doing my entire blend. I'm just going through here with every other marker to add just a little more depth. And I don't want to wash out everything that I just went through with my shadow. Okay? So I laid down the base, and then now I'm making sure that I have a nice smooth transition without getting rid of all of the little strands I just worked so hard to make. I think that adds something to it. Just going back in that second time with the shadow color, it really, really adds the depth. Now I have my E51, and I'm just going to go into my extreme highlight here. Where the sun would be shining off of her hair. And just adding a little bit of that highlight back in. There we go. There she is. Dixon, hi. Oh, I'm glad you're here too. Overblending is one of my issues, learning already. Yeah, definitely overblending is a huge issue when you're trying to create depth and texture with hair. You definitely don't want to blend super a whole bunch if you're trying to create texture like with these little strands. So, yeah, definitely be careful of that. I tend to do that too. So that's why that second coat sort of helps, because it brings some of that dimension I lost back in from overblending. So there's our little blonde Alice. Now, I think we're going to make this cat kind of Christmassy. Excuse me. So, what do you guys think? How should we make the Cheshire Cat kind of Christmassy? What colors should he be? He's normally like a pink and purple. But I'm thinking that we don't want to do that. So, a peppermint kitty. Maybe that's a good idea. I like that. So, let's go into our, let's use our toner grays. So I'm going to pull out my teas. I have T1, T2, T3, T4 that we're going to use to make cat fur, and maybe T5 into the shadow. So these are the lighter grays. I'm using these to pull off a white type of color for Mr. Kitty Cat. And then I'm going to use different reds than what I used for her dress, because I want to make it, I want to err kind of on the side of pink. So let's pull this in and let's check out onto the side of pink. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this R29 again and use that R29 again. But I think we're going to pull down here more into the pinky reds and go in that direction. So R29, R27, let's go into RB25. RB25, where are you? RB25. Maybe we're not going to use RB25. Where did you go? Oh, there it is. And this is going to be like a pinkish red color. And then we're going to use R43 to pull it back into itself a little bit. R43. All right. So these are for our peppermint kitty here. Peppermint kitty. Yes, the hex chart has definitely changed my coloring so much. If you don't have one, Sandy Alnack is the one who makes it. The address for it is right there. Sandy Alnack hex chart. Definitely suggest getting yourself a hex chart because they are the best. All right, so here we go. We have Miss Alice here, and I love doing things. I love using these images to color them, differently than intended. I don't know if you guys saw, but I used the Joy of Autumn image, and I colored her Christmas as well. And instead of her jumping in a leaf pile, I have her jumping into a pile of snow. I just used Nuvo drops to color the pile of snow underneath her. So, there's definitely tons of different things you can do with these images. Just let your imagination go wild. All right, so with our peppermint kitty, I'm gonna color the white part first. I don't know why, but I feel like that's what I want to do. So I'm gonna color the white part first. So I'm gonna do kind of a smooth blend on him. I'm not going to make him a fuzzy cat. So I'm gonna use this T5 and go in and shadow. Woohoo! Take off both caps. Taking off both caps just helps you with the pressure. It helps to equalize the pressure within the barrel of the marker. And so it will prevent the big blobs of ink coming out on you. And it will help you also to control that flow of ink a little bit better. Okay. So we're just going to go in here and add the shadows. And I'm not entirely like tracing him per se. I'm just adding cast shadows, like where his arm would shadow on his leg, and where his leg is going to shadow onto his body, and just kind of thickening up those lines a little bit so that we can play off of that shadow. I'm not worried about being super smooth with my brush strokes here, mainly because he is a cat and he is furry, so that's a thing. Kind of gives us a little bit of forgiveness there. And then his face is going to leave a shadow on his body, and his ear, leave a shadow, and then inside of his ear. And yes, I do talk to myself like this even if nobody's watching me. I'm just that way. And then his hat will leave a shadow. And then onto this arm. And her hair will shadow his arm. There we go. Hi, I'm on lunch and I thought I'd tune in for a few. Hey, Sean! How are you doing? We're finishing up Alice, hopefully. We're coloring up her. We're gonna make him a peppermint Cheshire cat, because that sounds fun, right? I think the peppermint Cheshire cat is totally a thing. So, that was T5. I'm actually gonna skip to T3, and we're gonna start coloring in all of this crazy kitty. Oh my gosh, how silly a peppermint Cheshire cat. I mean, it stands to reason he dresses up for the holiday too, right? He does tend to change his appearance, so I would imagine him being able to be festive. Let's see, that would be red, this would be white. And this would be white. And red and white. And red and white. And red and white. There we go. All right, into here. I'm not off the screen, hopefully, right? Am I getting off the screen? You guys gotta let me know, because my computer has such a delay on it that I can't really tell. Totally right. I think so. I'm glad you're with me, Sean. It makes so much more sense. Not that I need the encouragement, right? Not that I need the encouragement to misbehave, but when Sean's here, he encourages me to misbehave. That's why we get along. What's for lunch today, Sean? I'm hungry. I need some food. Are you eating mall grub or anything delicious? I need inspiration on what to cook for dinner is really what I'm asking for. I'm just going to shade in around his eyes a little bit so he has a little bit of that kind of sinister look about him. I don't think Santa's coming to visit the Cheshire Cat. What do you think? Walmart chicken sandwich. There you go. We had hamburgers for supper. Yum! I love me a good hamburger. I'm trying to get my child to eat something that is not a cheeseburger, because that's pretty much all he eats is cheeseburgers. He's definitely a carb kid. He likes everything that has to do with carbs. Not that I blame him, carbs are delicious, but at some point. All right. So guys, this isn't going to read as like a total white, like a stark white. I want him to read as a little bit of like a light gray. So just so you know, that's why my color choice has come into the toners, because I want him to read as a little bit gray. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I'm just shading some of this where it comes off of his leg. There we go. All right. Me too, especially pasta. Oh God, pasta. He's 12. He's very, very, very picky. Extremely picky. He has Asperger's, and so it's definitely a texture thing for him. He is not interested in things that are overtly textured. So like getting him to eat a steak or anything, yeah, that's totally out of the question. Not gonna happen. Okay, so I'm not too worried about going all the way into the highlight, because I'm going to use my colorless blender, and I'll show you how that works with the highlight. But I'm definitely going around all of the places. Ooh, I almost colored in his eye. That would have been super bad. I would have had to rethink his whole eye thing, because I think that our peppermint kitty is going to have green eyes. I mean, that makes sense, right? Peppermint kitty with spearmint eyes. Sean, you make me want pasta. I want something like fettuccine alfredo, like delicious pasta. It's the holiday time, right? Like, people cook amazing stuff like that. My mom makes fettuccine alfredo. That's incredible. And now I want some. How long is your shift? Sorry. No, you're not. It's all right. Don't worry about it. I was expecting taller, but my nephew has autism and it's texture issues too. How old is your nephew? It's such a texture thing with them. Nope. My son's 12, and there's not a whole lot in this world that he will eat. And it's all carb food. It's all super carb heavy. 10 hours? Do it, be bad. Look at you, you instigator. Do it. Eat the pasta. He's 15. Yeah. Okay, so I have my colorless blender, and I'm going to take the highlights, and I'm going to do a little bit of circle blending to kind of bring this gray into this stark white smoothly, okay? So generally, there's not a lot of circle blending that happens in Copic markers, but you'll see it leaves that highlight nice and white, and yet it brings a tiny bit of that gray over into it. It works really well, and it also, to me, creates a little bit of texture, because you really are saturating the heck out of the paper with the colorless blender. So that's why I like to use that as the highlight part of my white when I do white. It just reminded me of that quote from Steel Magnolias. It's white. Can you wear white? Sorry, I love that movie. Lena and I have watched it endlessly. Shelby! You get me, Sean. You know what's up. It's white. Can you wear white? I love, it's like two pigs fighting under a blanket. Oh, that cracks me up. All right. So there is our gray part of our peppermint cat. So now to make the peppermint part of our peppermint cat, I'm sorry, I totally put my head in the frame there. My bad. You guys just wanted to see my crazy fuzzy hair today. It's cool. I understand. I know it. Yeah. All right, so we're going with our R29. R29 for our peppermint cat. And we're just going to start shading over. The biggest thing to be careful with this is because you have done such a light colored cat, you have to be so careful with this red, or it will bleed. And then you will have a fuzzy cat, which I suppose is fine, but it really won't read the way you want it to. So we are just being nice and careful and ginger with our R29. And making our peppermint Cheshire cat. I love doing lives and having people like give me ideas for what they want to see, like how they want to see it colored, or, you know, doing like really wacky color combinations, or, you know, whatever. It's so fun for me to kind of make that compilation between everybody's opinions and see how it comes out. And I really love that. So we'll definitely be doing more lives. And I may actually even start a series of coloring classes for you guys. I have a group called Sweet Sentiment that is my coloring area, where I go and do some coloring stuff. And I have a YouTube channel. So if you guys lose track of these, I'm going to put these on my YouTube channel as soon as I download them today. The 2 videos from today. And I will stick them on my Sweet Sentiment YouTube channel. So that way you guys don't lose these, and you can refer back to them if you want. I just shared that. Yes, classes. You love me more than you love your luggage. That's awesome. Oh, you make me laugh. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now. Remember how I said in the other video, if you watched it, or I think I said it in the beginning of this video, that I'm not super big on light source? And I'm going to show you why. I have my light source coming from this direction over here. My light source should be over here, and I just shaded this part of the tail. So, you know, it's a thing. Maybe there's multiple light sources, or maybe his bum is so big that it's blocking the light. We're going to go with that, okay? His bum is so big that it's blocking the light, and so it's lighter on that side. And her hair is blocking this one. See? There's a story behind every image. Aw, bummer, Sean. Watch the rest of this later, okay? And I'll send you the YouTube links when I get it uploaded, all right? Have a wonderful rest of your shift. I'm adding a little bit of red to his nose. Hey, you know, light source is a thing. That's what happens. They all have a story, and you just have to, you know, go for it. And commit to your story. I just did. That's totally what I committed to. Right? I was like, hey, I just realized that I covered the light source. That's okay. Like I said, the Copic police are not going to come get us. And if they do, I'll warn you all, because I'll probably be the first to go. Because they'll be like, lady, what are you doing? See, I talk to myself. You guys still with me? Yeah, Copic police, I'm in so much trouble. It's totally a thing. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Oh, that's funny. Does that mean you're sacrificing me to the Copic police? I need Amy Young on here to tell me about, my light sources and stuff. That girl is amazing. Archie, no. Sorry, my little doggy's in here looking out the window and barking at the neighbors. I think their big old dog is outside. So my little tiny dog decides to bark at their big, huge dog. It happens. All right. So now we're going to go into this super pink. I think this is going to read well as like that sugary kind of pepperminty type thing. So this is RV25. And yes, this is going to take it kind of on the pink side, but we're going to bring it back a little bit with the R43. Okay. Sorry if I stick my big fat head in there. This is that R43. And since this is a little more red, it's going to tone that down just a tiny bit. I also feel like since it's the Cheshire Cat, I mean, he's going to be like electrically, he doesn't do anything quietly, right? So he's going to be like a wild peppermint and not a quiet peppermint. What do you guys think? Eccentric, yes. He is an eccentric peppermint. Eccentric peppermint. That's a thing. It totally is. I like it. All right. So, his eyes. With the Cheshire Cat, and with Alice as well. I don't know what color eyes to do on Alice. So, I have GOO, also known as Goo. And I'm going to draw kind of circles around his crazy cat eyes to give them a little more dimension. Okay? Just like that. And then I'm going to go in with my YG67. And with that YG67, I'm going to do just kind of little tiny brush strokes from the outside in. give his eyes some dimension. And then I'm going to take my YG23, and I know this looks crazy frightening right now, so it's all right, don't stress out. And I'm gonna do those slits that are in the center of his eyes. And then I'm gonna go back to the GOO, and I'm gonna saturate that. There we go. Now his eyes have some dimension to them. Little bit of craziness there to the Cheshire Cat's eyes. All right. So now my question is, what should we do with his hat? I think he needs a green hat. I think he needs like an olive green hat. What do you think? All right, so we're gonna do like an olive green hat on Mr. Cheshire Cat. And I think I'm gonna leave these little triangles and do them red and his sash red. So I have YG99, and I'm gonna go in and add the shadows. Kind of funny because I just said, oh, I love everybody's opinions. And then I'm like, oh, we're doing an olive green hat. And I didn't even ask. You were thinking green? Okay, I feel better. Yeah, dark green for sure. Okay, thanks. Thanks for validating me on that, because I was like, yay, I love everybody's opinions. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm doing this. Okay, so I'm just adding in shadow again where these cast shadows would be, around his little playing cards. He totally stole this hat from the Mad Hatter, because that's a thing. And I'm gonna add shadow on these little banners coming down. There we go. Great minds think alike. That's right. Okay, so I have my YG97, and I know I turn my paper a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I hope it doesn't make you like seasick or anything. And I'm just going back around where I already laid in those shadows and pulling out that shadow. Just blending it out. Try not to oversaturate here. You really don't want to really saturate the paper here. You just want to blend a little bit very easily and not, uh-oh, here comes the puppies. You see I'm kind of just doing like a one stroke scenario here on top of where the other color goes. To blend that out. So I'm not spending a lot of time and putting a lot of ink on the paper. I'm just focusing on where that darker color touches the white, and that's what's going to help me not oversaturate. Okay. And into YG93. And this kind of turns it a little bit more green. This 93 is a tad more on the green side than the others. The others have a lot of yellow to them. And this is a tad more green. So I kind of go over everything with this to to add that little hint of green back in there. It really kind of sells that olive color. I think that's a great Mad Hatter hat color. I'm going to take the YG91 and I'm just going to add a slight highlight here. Just to sell the dimension on the hat here. And there we go. All right, so we have his hat here. I'm going to use my same color blend that I used for her dress. And I'm going to use R89, whoops, and make that fall over for the sash. Because if the hat's green, it needs a red sash to continue with our Christmas theme, right? And the brim of his hat would leave a shadow on that sash right there. And then I'm going to use this to go around like just the edge of his cap to kind of sell that edge there. And give me a starting point for blending. And then down this side that's farthest away from the sun or our light source. All right, so that's R89. I'm going to my R29. I told you guys R29 is like my favorite color. I don't know why. I'm not even like a super into red person, but R29 is one of my favorite Copic markers. Seriously. I think it's just because it's super smooth and it's so vibrant. And I use it in so many different color blends. It really makes me happy. I love it too. It is a go-to color, yeah, definitely. It's I love it. I use it in so many different color blends. I use it in like in a pink blend. I use it obviously in my red blends. I use it a ton in orange. I use it, there's just so many different places that I use it. And it's such a great vibrant red that you can use it for so many different things. So R29. Okay, I'm skipping to R17 mainly because this isn't a huge area to color. So I'm gonna leave one of the colors out of my color blend so that I'm not oversaturating my paper too much, okay? So that's the reason for skipping the R27. It's not going to be quite as smooth of a blend, but you're also not going to notice quite as much because it's such a tiny area. And then I'm jumping to my R14. Not that that's really a jump, it's the next one in my color blend. And R14 is a nice like orangey, like a salmon color. It's called light rouge, but it definitely has orange properties to it. All right, so I think that sells the pink in his peppermint, the sweet kind of candy in his peppermint, but then kind of draws that red back in from her dress. So I really like how that turned out. So we have that, okay? Now I'm gonna add a little bit of shading to his cards here. I know that the cards are white, but I'm gonna add a tiny bit of W3. Made me think of like WD-40. I don't know why, don't ask. I'm just that random. So I'm gonna add a tiny bit of W3 here and just kind of give our cards a little bit of an outline. And then I'm gonna use my colorless blender, wherever I threw it, and just kind of soften that outline. So I'm really wanting to keep those cards white, but they need a little bit of dimension to them. There we go. Did you? Good, I'm not the only one. I'm like, it just made me think of WD-40. Oh, so now I have my Copic multi-liner. This one is the 0.03, and these are just black, and they're made by Copic. A lot of people use them for like anime coloring and stuff, but I have this little spade on the card on his hat, and it's going to be easier to use this to color that spade in than it's going to be to use a Copic. Okay, so that's why I use the multi-liner there. Also, I'm going to use the same multi-liner for her eyes. So I'm going to color her pupils first, and I do leave a little bit of white in the pupil. And I think that she's going to have green eyes as well. We'll go back to that multi-liner in just a minute. I think that she's going to have green eyes as well, but they're not going to be quite as electric as the cat's. So she's going to have more of like a normal person's green eyes. So I'm going to pull in, ooh, G46 is called mistletoe. So let's go with G46. And then I'm going to use this, let's see. What color do I want to use? The G28, the G46, and then I have my GOO, okay? So, starting with GOO, I'm going to draw a circle for her iris, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and shade that in. And I'm not going to lie, my circles sometimes stink, so sometimes they get really big. Sometimes I want them to have super big eyes, and sometimes I don't. So, that's G-O-O, and I need to turn her this way to fix this. There we go. So, all right. I can fuss with the eyes like all day, so sorry if I fuss with the eyes a lot. So now I have this G46 color, and I'm going to go from the pupil out. And I'm just going to make like these little lines, almost like I'm doing the hair, but all the way out from the pupil. Okay? And her eyes are going to look really wonky for a minute, so just stay with me on this, okay? And then I have this G28, and I'm going to go from the edge of that circle inward with that same kind of motion. And I'm telling you, her eyes are going to look really wonky for a couple minutes while we get this together. So don't worry. Because like right now, her eyes look like a hot mess, right? Okay. Then I'm going to take this GOO and I'm going to go around and kind of push that color towards the outside. And this is definitely oversaturating the paper. 100% oversaturating the paper. But you want to do that on this one because you want to get that texture and dimension into her eyes. Okay. So then I'm going to go back to this G28 and I'm going to very lightly kind of shade in the very outside extreme of her eye on both of these. Just super tiny, super light line. Just so that there's no gaps in the color around the outside of her eye. Okay, and then I'm going to take this G46 and I'm going to go back in and add some of the texture that I lost. And then we're going to saturate it one more time. And her eyes will look like actual eyes. So, GOO. And her eyes look like eyes. Yay. Okay, so now to really sell the dimension in her eyes, she has these big, huge white eyeballs. Sorry, I feel like I lost too much dimension, so I'm gonna add a little bit more in. So she has these like huge, big white eyeballs, and they need to be toned down just a little bit, okay? So, there we go. That fixed them. So, I'm gonna take C, the cool gray, if I can find it. Where's my C? Okay, I'm gonna take C1, my cool gray, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of a line down here and a shadow right here to show that her eyeballs are actually in there. Now mind you, she still has huge white eyeballs, but they're going to look, it's going to give it some dimension. Well, there you go. I just showed you how to color the eyes. My colorless blender, and I'm gonna lighten that harsh line and push that gray towards the outside of her eye so that it's not just a stark line. The colorless blender, I think, is actually such a misnomer because it doesn't exactly blend. It more pushes the pigment around. It repels the pigment. So there you go. Now, remember how I told you we were going to go back to this? I always go back to this. And then I like to give her like some eyeliner. So I use a nice smooth, even stroke. Around her eye. And I think that this just really makes her eyes pop. Okay? And then I add back in her eyelashes that we've kind of colored over, so they've sort of gotten dull. And we're gonna do the same with this one. There we go. And we're gonna add her eyelashes back in here. And there we go. And that just really adds some dimension, makes her eyes pop, kind of adds that cartoonishness back into it. and definitely, you know, gives her some, I don't know, just gives her some character, I guess. I guess that's what you call it. I just realized that I never colored in her mouth. And if her mouth was open, it would definitely be colored in. So, yeah. So I just used my RB95, which was the shadow color I used for her skin. So there she is. There is Alice. I hope you guys really, really enjoyed this. I hope that I helped you. If you have any questions or anything, please, please totally feel free to send me a message or post the questions right here on the page, and we'll answer them if and when we can. And if we can't, we'll find somebody who can answer them. We have such a great community here of artists, and everybody's willing to help one another. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions. And, you know, if you're wondering it, somebody else is probably wondering it too. So anyways, these images are available in the shop right now. So